In this video, we'll explore both the autofill and the flash fill feature within Excel. So we have some examples that we could work with. So in the first cell here, D4, I have a number, random number here. So let's say I want to build a sequence like the next number is 3, 4, 5, 2, and so on and so forth. So if I want to build a sequence, a couple of different ways by which I could do this, I could just click and drag this number down. And what you could see is that it just duplicates the number because it doesn't know, it doesn't have that intelligence to understand that you want to build a sequence. But even then, you have this icon that shows up here and it says autofill options. So once we expand this, we have a bunch of options that we could work with. So by default, it just copy the cells, but you could also say fill series or fill the formatting or fill without formatting. So fill series is what we want. There we go. So now it identifies that and builds a sequence of numbers. So now the other alternate way that you could go by doing this is actually just writing down just two of the numbers in the sequence. And then if you drag it down, you will see that the autofill option by default selected fill series and not copy cells. So two different ways by which you could work with this. Now, what if it's alphanumeric though? If it's alphanumeric, the only thing you need to keep in mind is that the last character has to be a number. Because if you see, if you follow the previous video where we talked about format cells, this is not a number. This is just text. But if you want to build a sequence of any alphanumeric characters, you just need to ensure that the last character has to be a number. At least the last character has to be a number, right? So now if I were to drag this down, there you go. So here, although I just put one value in the cell, it has that intelligence to identify that, this is what you want to do. You want to build a sequence. So if I go over here under the autofill options, by default, it's fill series. I could also switch it to copy cells where it would just duplicate those values. Perfect, right? Now the same thing would work with date as well. Pretty straightforward. There you go. But there's something really interesting with dates that we will see in the autofill options. So apart from copy cells and fill series and all of that, you also have the option of fill days, weekdays. That means if you want to skip the weekends. So it depends on the regional settings that you have defined within your computer. So if the start of the week is Monday, so your weekends will be taken as Saturdays and Sundays, right? So let's say I'm selecting fill days as an example. There you go. So we can see that it is filling the days, but if I say fill months, okay. So it's only going by the months, right? So different options that we could work with, or if I go by years, it'll go, it'll go forward every year. So different options that we could work with. So I'll bring it back to what it originally was, fill series. Perfect. So that's as far as the autofill options are concerned. Now we're going to look at the flash fill. Now in flash fill, what we have here is, let's say I have a bunch of full names here. So this full name is basically the first name and the last name, right? But what if I want to extract only the first names? If it's just a few of them, probably would just manually type it in. But what if you had hundreds and thousands of rows where you want to extract it? So what if we want to do this without any formulas? So that's where the flash fill comes in. So all we need to do is we need to provide at least the first name properly. So here I've provided the first name for this particular person, Sarah Stewart. So I've typed in Sarah here. So at least now there is some level of intelligence. At least it knows how to pick up the first name, right? So let me just select these cells. And all I need to do is if I go into the data tab, there is an option for flash fill. There you go. So I just click on flash fill. Immediately it's gone and picked it up. So you also see that this flash fill options shows up here. So I can accept the suggestion. So I'm accepting it. And perfect. There you go. Right. So similarly, I could just type in the last name. So let me just get rid of this. What is there? And Let's get rid of that. Okay, and we'll just type in Stuart. And now let's go in and select these cells and try flash fill. There you go. We got the last names, right? So this is a very simple technique by which we could extract information without using any formulas. So that's what flash fill is.